All right, get ready to dive deep because today we're tackling Vietnam. Specifically, we're going to help you figure out which city is your perfect match.
Ah, Vietnam, a country that's really captured the imaginations of a lot of people lately, and for good reason.
Yeah, and you've handed us a ton of articles about all these different cities, from like the super busy streets of Ho Chi Minh City to those like peaceful beaches of Phu Quoc. And like, let's be real here. Picking just one place to live in a country as diverse as Vietnam,
Mm.
ugh, it's not easy.
No, not at all. It's like almost impossible. Like trying to pick a favorite ice cream flavor when you've got like 100 delicious
A
options.
hundred, exactly. So we're here to kind of break it all down for you, sift through all the facts, see if we can find any hidden gems and pull out those like aha moments that'll help you make like a really informed decision.
Think of us as your like personal Vietnam travel guides, but like, minus the cheesy hats and the fanny packs.
Okay, so where do we even begin with all this?
Well, I think like any good adventure, we start with a map. But I'm not talking about like a regular geographical map, more like a financial one. Cost of living is a big one, like the first hurdle to get over. And thankfully, Vietnam can be way easier on the wallet than a lot of Western countries.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was
Yeah.
going through all these articles and honestly, some of the rent prices, I was like, whoa. We're talking like $200 to $400 a month for a one bedroom in Hue. That's like less than what I spend on groceries every week sometimes.
It's true. Vietnam gives you that like magical combo of the exotic, plus it's affordable. But, cost of living can change like a chameleon depending on which city you're in, like Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. They have a lot of opportunities and cool stuff, but they're definitely going to cost you.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, huh? A city that matches like your lifestyle and your budget?
Exactly. And it's not just rent, we're talking utilities, groceries, transportation, those times you want to splurge on a delicious bowl of pho.
Oh man, speaking of pho, one article mentioned that street food in Vietnam is insanely cheap.
Mm.
Like you can get a full meal for just a few bucks, which is crazy. But what about if you're like me and you like to cook at home sometimes? Are groceries affordable too?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes. Groceries are generally much cheaper in Vietnam compared to like Western countries. And the local markets, forget about it. They're like treasure chests full of fresh produce and spices and all this incredible stuff. Plus, you can work on your bargaining skills. It's all part of the fun.
Okay, so we've got the potential for a really tasty A&D affordable lifestyle, which is awesome. But what about the practical stuff, like healthcare? That's got to be a big concern for anyone who's thinking about moving to a new country.
Oh yeah, healthcare for sure. It's super important. And Vietnam has been like really stepping up their game, especially in the bigger cities. There are private hospitals now that are like top notch, meeting international standards. The articles mentioned places like FV Hospital and Vinmec in Ho Chi Minh City. And Vinmec has spots in other cities too, like Da Nang and Nha Trang. They're known for having really good care and English speaking staff, which can be a huge relief, when you're in a new healthcare system.
Right, totally get that.
Yeah.
That's reassuring though, for sure. But even with good healthcare options, I'm guessing health insurance is still a must-have, right?
100%. Yeah. No matter where you choose to live in Vietnam, you got to have health insurance.
Yeah.
Think of it like your safety net. And the good news is it doesn't have to be super expensive. We're seeing monthly premiums from about $40 to $150. It all depends on your age, your health, and what kind of coverage you want.
Okay, good to know.
Mm.
Now, let's say you're moving with kids. What are the education options like in Vietnam? Got to think about the little ones too.
Yeah, absolutely. Education is huge. And Vietnam has like a whole mix of options. Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, they've got a ton of international schools, catering to expats and offering those big, globally recognized curricula. But there's a catch. Be prepared to pay. The tuition at these schools, it can be just as expensive as Western countries.
So there's a trade-off there. Amazing education, but it might cost you. What about the smaller cities? What are the options like there?
If you're in a smaller city, you might not have as many international schools to choose from. Homeschooling could be an option, or maybe commuting to a bigger city. Da Nang, for example, has Green Shoots International School, and it seems like expats love it, but it might be the only international school there. Definitely got to research that, based on what your family needs.
Yeah, research is key. Okay, so we've covered the essentials: cost of living, healthcare, and education. But let's be honest, when we're dreaming of moving to another country, it's not just about spreadsheets and practicalities, right? It's about the vibe, the energy, the feeling. So let's talk about what it's really like to live in these different Vietnamese cities.
Ah, yes, the soul of the city. And Vietnam has a symphony of choices. We're talking everything from the crazy energy of Ho Chi Minh City to the ancient charm of Hoi An. Each city's got its own rhythm, its own beat.
Ooh, I love that analogy. So paint me a picture. What's the vibe like in Ho Chi Minh City?
Imagine a city that never sleeps, just a whirlwind of energy, skyscrapers reaching for the sky, motorbikes zipping through the streets like a swarm of bees. That's Ho Chi Minh City, or Saigon, as a lot of people still call it. It's the economic heart of Vietnam. It's where ambition hangs thick in the air and it feels like there's an opportunity around every corner. Think rooftop bars with insane city views, super trendy cafes that serve the strongest coffee you've ever had, and street food stalls that'll make your mouth water just walking by.
Sounds exhilarating, like a city that's constantly on fast forward.
Exactly. And that energy, it's contagious. Ho Chi Minh will push you to be your most daring and ambitious self. But, if that constant buzz starts to feel a bit much, Hanoi might be more your speed.
Okay, so tell me about Hanoi. What kind of rhythm does it have?
Hanoi, it's a city that breathes history. It's where ancient temples stand shoulder to shoulder with colonial-era buildings, and the air smells like incense and strong Vietnamese coffee. Imagine yourself walking along the shores of Hoan Kiem Lake as the sun rises, watching people practice Tai Chi, or getting lost in the narrow alleys of the Old Quarter, where artisans are making beautiful things like silk lanterns and lacquerware.
It sounds incredibly charming
Mm.
and peaceful, like a city that's telling you to slow down and savor every moment. A nice contrast to the high-speed energy of Ho Chi Minh City. But what if you want something that's kind of a mix of both? Like you want some city energy, but you also want to be able to escape to the beach every now and then.
Well, then Da Nang might be your perfect dance partner. It's a coastal city that's getting more popular by the day, especially with digital nomads, and it's easy to see why.
Yeah, I've been seeing Da Nang everywhere lately, like on travel blogs and social media. What's making it so popular?
Da Nang is like that cool kid in school, the one who's good at everything. It's a modern city, but it's got history, too. Stunning beaches, a growing city center with all the stuff you could possibly need, and easy access to the Hai Van Pass, which is like one of the most scenic coastal roads in the world.
Okay, that sounds pretty amazing. So you can work from a cool co-working space 1 minute and then be surfing or sipping cocktails on the beach the next. Sign me up.
Right. It's that blend of city life and beach vibes that makes Da Nang so special. And let's not forget the food. Da Nang is famous for its incredible seafood, and there's a mix of local and international cuisine.
Hmm. My mouth is watering just thinking about it. But Vietnam's coastal charm doesn't stop with Da Nang, right?
Hmm.
There's also Nha Trang and Phu Quoc. What are those places like?
Absolutely. Nha Trang is a really lively coastal city that's been a popular tourist spot for a while now. It's got that classic resort town feel. Amazing beaches, crystal clear water that's perfect for diving, and a crazy nightlife scene. Imagine beachfront bars, tons of seafood restaurants, and just a constant stream of energy.
So Nha Trang is the place to be if you're looking for a party vibe.
Exactly. It's a place to let loose, soak up the sun, and enjoy that more, how do you say, energetic side of coastal living. But if you want something more relaxed, more off the beaten path, then Phu Quoc might be calling your name.
Okay, tell me more about Phu Quoc. What makes it so special?
Picture this: an island paradise, lush green forests, white sand beaches, turquoise waters full of marine life, and a super chill pace of life. Phu Quoc is Vietnam's largest island. It's known for its natural beauty, its tranquility, and its potential for adventure. You could spend your days exploring the national park, kayaking, snorkeling in coral reefs, or just chilling on a secluded beach with a good book.
Wow, that sounds absolutely idyllic, like a true escape from all the craziness of the world. But what about practically? Is it easy to get around? Can you find everything you need on an island?
Phu Quoc is surprisingly well developed. They have good infrastructure, and there are tons of amenities for both tourists and people who live there. You'll find local markets, supermarkets, cute little cafes, international restaurants, the whole works. And getting around is pretty easy. You can rent a motorbike, take a local bus, or even grab a taxi.
Okay, so it's paradise, but with all the conveniences you need. I like that. But even with all these incredible options, I feel like we're just scratching the surface of Vietnam's amazing cities.
You're totally right. We haven't even mentioned places like Hue, the old imperial capital with its amazing citadel and royal tombs, or Can Tho in the Mekong Delta, where you can experience those vibrant floating markets. And then there's Dalat, the mountain city with its cool weather, French colonial architecture, and stunning waterfalls. Seriously, Vietnam is full of possibilities. Every city has its own unique blend of charm, history, and adventure.
It's almost overwhelming. But like, in a good way. So how do you even begin to choose?
That's where the real journey starts, the journey of self-discovery. Because choosing the right city in Vietnam isn't about checking boxes on a list. It's about figuring out your priorities, your lifestyle, and what kind of experience you're really looking for.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me the roadmap to figuring all this out.
All right, first things first, budget. How much can you comfortably spend each month on living expenses? That'll help us narrow down the options right away. Once we've got a budget, we can dive into your lifestyle preferences. Do you want the excitement of a big city, or are you looking for something more laid back? Do you love the coast, the mountains, or maybe somewhere in between? Are you planning to work remotely, or are you searching for a more traditional job? These are the kinds of questions that'll help us find the cities that best match your vision.
I love that. It's not just picking a city. It's like designing a whole new chapter in your life.
And speaking of new chapters, Vietnam has become a popular spot for digital nomads. Why is that? What's drawing so many remote workers to this country? Well, it's a few things, really. First off, Vietnam has seriously good internet. I mean, it's reliable, it's fast, it's essential for anyone who works online. Second, the cost of living, like we've been talking about, is super affordable. Digital nomads can make their money go further and maybe even work less, giving them more time to explore and enjoy all that Vietnam has to offer. Third, Vietnam offers this unique mix of culture and modern conveniences. One day you can explore ancient temples, the next day you're working from a super trendy co-working space. And lastly, there's this feeling of adventure and possibility that you just feel in the air in Vietnam. It's a country that encourages you to step outside your comfort zone, embrace new experiences, and connect with a vibrant community of people who are on the same wavelength.
Sounds like a perfect recipe for a fulfilling and inspiring lifestyle. But let's get down to specifics. Which cities are the top picks for digital nomads right now?
Well, Da Nang, for sure. It's got that perfect balance of beach vibes, city amenities, and a thriving co-working scene. We're seeing cool co-working spaces like Dreamplex and Tung popping up in major cities. They offer stylish and functional workspaces where digital nomads can connect, collaborate, and, get stuff done.
Hey, if co-working spaces aren't really your thing, I'm guessing Vietnam is full of cafes that are practically designed for digital nomads, right?
Oh, absolutely. Cafes are like a way of life in Vietnam, and so many of them have super reliable Wi-Fi, comfy seats, and endless coffee and tea. You'll see digital nomads working in cafes everywhere, tapping away on their laptops, soaking up the atmosphere.
Just remember to order something every now and then. Good cafe etiquette. But before we get lost in our digital nomad daydreams, let's talk about visas. Because no matter how awesome a country is, you can't really enjoy it if you're stressed about your legal status, right?
You're so right. Visas are that essential paperwork that can either make your Vietnam experience super smooth or a total headache. So let's break it down and make it all a bit clearer.
Yes, please. Because I'm seeing all this info about different visa types, like tourist visas, business visas, temporary residence cards. It's overwhelming. Where do we even start?
Okay, let's start with the basics. If you're just planning a short trip, like a month or two, a tourist visa is your best bet. They're pretty easy to get. You can get one when you arrive at certain airports or through a Vietnamese embassy or consulate in your home country.
Perfect for like a quick getaway or even a scouting trip to check out different cities. But what if you're planning to stay longer, like work remotely for a while or even, make Vietnam your home base for a while?
Then we're talking longer-term visas. A business visa is popular for people who are working for a Vietnamese company or if have a local sponsor.
So that's for people who already have a job lined up in Vietnam.
Exactly. A business visa can be good for anywhere from 1 to 12 months, depending on the details of your job or business.
That's pretty flexible. What about the temporary residence card? Who's that for?
The temporary residence card, or TRC, it's like the golden ticket for expats who are serious about living in Vietnam for a bit. It's usually given to people who have a work permit or have started a business in Vietnam. And it comes with some pretty sweet perks.
Okay, tell me more. What are the perks of having a TRC?
Well, the biggest one is that you can come and go from Vietnam as much as you want without having to renew your visa every time. So if you want to travel around Southeast Asia or go back home for a visit, you don't have to apply for a new visa every single time.
That's a huge plus. Anything else that makes the TRC so great?
The TRC usually lets you stay in Vietnam longer, like 1 to 3 years, depending on the type of TRC you have. And it can make things way easier, like opening a bank account or renting an apartment.
Sounds like a VIP pass to expat life. But I've heard about these things called visa runs, which sound kind of shady. What's the deal with those?
Ah, yes, the infamous visa runs. It's kind of like a loophole that some expats have used to stay in Vietnam longer without getting a long-term visa. Basically, you leave the country for a short time, usually to a nearby country like Cambodia or Laos, and then come back to Vietnam on a new tourist visa.
So it's like hitting the reset button on your visa.
Exactly. But here's the thing. The Vietnamese government has been cracking down on visa runs lately. They're getting stricter about visa rules, and there's always the risk of not being allowed back into Vietnam if they think you're abusing the system.
So not the best or most ethical option.
Not really. It's always better to try and get a legit visa if you want to live in Vietnam for a while.
Solid advice. So if you're really committed to making Vietnam your home, what's the best thing to do when it comes to visas?
Honestly, I'd always recommend talking to a good visa agency or a legal expert who knows all about Vietnamese immigration law. They can help you figure out which visa is right for you, guide you through the process, and make sure all your paperwork is good to go.
Okay, that makes total sense. Always better to be safe than sorry, especially with legal stuff in a new country. So we've covered the basics of visas, but there's still so much more to talk about.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit, yeah, and talk about like the more practical side of actually living and working in Vietnam. We talked about visas, but what about earning a living there, like making some money in this awesome country?
Right, because, I mean, rent and pho might be cheap, but you still need some dong to enjoy all that Vietnam has to offer.
Exactly, you got it. And the good news is Vietnam has a lot of opportunities for expats to make money. Doesn't matter if you're, a seasoned pro, a budding entrepreneur, or a digital nomad looking for that remote work bliss.
So true. Okay, let's break it down a bit. Say you're someone with a more traditional career path, looking for a job with a Vietnamese company. What's the job market like over there?
Well, Vietnam's economy is doing really well, which is awesome. And that means more jobs, even for foreigners. Sectors like IT, tourism, manufacturing, and education, those are really active right now. A lot of companies are looking for skilled professionals from overseas.
So someone with experience in those areas might have a good chance of finding a job.
Absolutely. But of course, you got to have the right qualifications and experience, and speaking English fluently is a big plus.
Right. I mean, I'm sure some people in Vietnam speak English, but it's always good to respect the local language and culture, right?
100%. And even if your Vietnamese isn't perfect, just showing that you're willing to learn goes a long way.
So let's say you land that dream job in Vietnam. What about work permits? Is that process a pain?
Thankfully, it's usually pretty smooth, especially if your employer is willing to sponsor you. They'll take care of most of the paperwork. You'll just need your passport, visa, your qualifications, proof of work experience, that kind of stuff.
So it's like a team effort. Your employer helps you through all the red tape.
Exactly. And once you've got that work permit, you're all set. You can legally work in Vietnam and, contribute to the local economy.
Awesome. Now, what about all those entrepreneurial spirits out there? Is Vietnam a good place to start a business?
Vietnam has become like this hotbed of entrepreneurial activity. It's really cool to see. The population is young, super dynamic. They're all about innovation. Plus, the government's making it easier for foreign investment, and there's a growing support system for startups.
So it's a pretty good time to be business-minded in Vietnam then.
Absolutely. But like with any business venture, you got to do your research, know the market, and have a solid plan.
Makes sense. And what about our digital nomad friends? We talk about how much they love Vietnam, but what are the practical things they need to think about when working remotely from there?
Right. So Vietnam has amazing internet, which is like the lifeline for any digital nomad. Most cafes, co-working spaces, even accommodations have reliable Wi-Fi. And the affordability, that means you can stretch your budget further and maybe even work less, giving you more time to explore and actually enjoy the country.
That's the dream, isn't it? Working from a beachside cafe, ocean view, sipping a coconut, taking a dip in the water whenever you need a break.
Exactly. And even though, it might not always be that picture perfect, Vietnam definitely gives you the opportunity for that kind of work-life balance.
But even digital nomads have to manage their money, right? What's the banking system like in Vietnam?
It's pretty straightforward, actually. Opening a bank account is easy, especially if you have a visa and proof that you live there. Some of the popular banks are Vietcombank, Techcombank, and HSBC.
And are ATMs everywhere?
Oh, yeah. ATMs are everywhere, like on every street corner in the big cities. Easy access to your cash. But keep in mind, most ATMs have a small fee for each transaction. So withdrawing a larger amount at once can help you avoid all those little fees.
Good to know. What about sending money back home or receiving income from overseas? Any tips on international transfers?
Services like Wise or Remitly are really good options for international transfers. They usually have better exchange rates and lower fees than traditional banks.
Nice. Okay, so we've got our income figured out, our bank accounts are set up, we're ready to rock and roll in Vietnam. There's this big thing we haven't talked about yet, taxes. What do expats need to know about the Vietnamese tax system?
Taxes, yeah, always got to remember those. They're an important thing to think about when living and working abroad. And Vietnam is no exception. Like we said before, if you stay in Vietnam for more than 183 days in a year, you're considered a resident foreigner, which means you're taxed on all your income, even the money you make outside of Vietnam.
Worldwide income? Whoa, that's something to keep in mind for sure. What are the tax rates like?
They vary from 5% to 35%, depending on how much you earn.
So it's definitely a good idea to learn about the tax laws and maybe talk to a tax advisor to make sure you're doing everything right.
Absolutely. Tax laws can get complicated, and it's always good to get professional advice, especially with international income and residency rules.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Again, let's switch gears again from the money stuff to the more, I guess, intangible aspects of living in Vietnam, the culture. What are some key things expats should know about Vietnamese culture and how to, behave properly?
Vietnamese culture is amazing, really rich and fascinating. Family, community, and respect for elders are super important. While you'll see a mix of modern and traditional stuff in the cities, it's always a good idea to be aware of local customs and traditions.
I love learning about different cultures. Give us some insider tips on how to handle social situations gracefully and respectfully.
All right, well, greetings are super important. A simple xin chào, pronounced xin chào, with a little bow of the head shows a lot of respect. And if you're talking to someone older than you, use an for men and shut for women before their name. It's kind of like saying Mr. or Ms, but in Vietnamese.
Jin Chao, and remember those titles.
Yeah.
Got it. Any other social customs we should know?
Vietnamese people value politeness and being humble. For example, you should use both hands when giving or receiving something, especially from an older person or someone who's in a position of authority. It's just a sign of respect, showing you're fully engaged.
I love those little details that tell you so much about a culture. Any other words of wisdom to help us avoid any awkward moments?
Sure. When you're eating, don't stick your chopsticks straight up in a bowl of rice. It's considered bad luck associated with funerals.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. Definitely keeping my chopsticks horizontal. What about tipping? Is that a thing in Vietnam?
Tipping isn't as common in Vietnam as it is in some Western countries, but it's becoming more normal, especially in touristy areas and fancier places. If you're happy with the service, leaving a small tip is a nice gesture.
Got it. Tip when it feels right, but don't stress about it too much. What about the language barrier? Do a lot of people speak English in Vietnam?
You'll find that a lot of people in tourist areas and young people in the city speak English. But learning some basic Vietnamese phrases will definitely make your experience better and show respect for the culture.
Absolutely. Even just knowing how to say thank you in Kambun and please, Lamun, can make a big difference. Plus, it's fun trying to communicate in a new language.
Totally. Don't be afraid to mess up and laugh at yourself. Vietnamese people are generally super patient and appreciate the effort.
All right, so we've covered the cultural stuff, but what about safety? Is Vietnam a safe place for expats?
Overall, yeah. Vietnam's considered a safe country for tourists and expats. The crime rate is pretty low, and violent crime is rare, especially in the areas where expats tend to live.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
But it's still smart to take precautions, right? Like using common sense.
For sure. Just like anywhere else in the world, you gotta be aware of your surroundings, especially in crowds. Keep your valuables safe, and don't walk around alone in deserted areas late at night.
Got it. Basic street smarts are important no matter where you are. What about healthcare emergencies? Anything specific to keep in mind?
It's always a good idea to have emergency contact info handy, like the number for your embassy or consulate and local hospitals. And if you have any health conditions, make sure you have enough medication because it might not be easy to find in Vietnam.
Okay, good to know. So it sounds like Vietnam is a safe and welcoming place for expats as long as you use common sense and stay informed.
Exactly. And don't forget, the expat community in Vietnam is super welcoming and supportive. There are online forums, Facebook groups, and meetups where you can connect with other expats, get advice, and share experiences.
That's awesome. Always nice to know you have a network of people who get it.
Totally. And speaking of awesome, let's not forget about the amazing food scene in Vietnam. It's seriously a culinary adventure waiting to happen.
Oh, yeah. Food is such a big part of Vietnamese culture. And I'm already thinking about all that delicious food, pho banh mi spring rolls. It's a foodie's dream come true.
It really is. And the best part, you can eat like royalty without spending a ton of money. Street food is crazy affordable and delicious, and even eating in restaurants is relatively cheap compared to a lot of Western countries.
Can't wait to explore the markets, try all the street food, and maybe even take a cooking class or two.
Definitely do it. It's a great way to immerse yourself in the culture and learn how to make all that delicious Vietnamese food.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot in this segment, from work and finances to culture and safety. Anything else you want to add before we wrap things up?
Well, just remember, moving to a new country is a big decision. It's totally normal to feel overwhelmed with all the information and choices.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a lot to take in, but I think we've done a pretty good job of breaking it down.
I think so too. And hey, this is just the beginning of your Vietnam adventure. There's so much more to discover and experience.
Okay, so are you ready for the grand finale? We've covered pretty much everything about living in Vietnam, from visas to how to eat street food without looking silly. But now comes the fun part, actually picking a city.
Yes, we've done all the prep work. Now it's time to put the puzzle together and imagine what your life in Vietnam could look like.
I'm picturing a big map of Vietnam with all these colorful pins, each one representing a different city and, showing its own unique energy.
Love that. And it's so true. Vietnam is like a tapestry with all these different threads, and each city adds its own unique pattern and color.
So where do we put our first pin on this imaginary map?
How about we start with the big one? Ho Chi Minh City, that bustling metropolis. It's often the first stop for people coming to Vietnam.
Saigon, the city that never sleeps.
Yeah.
We talked about its energy before, but let's dive a little deeper. What kind of person thrives in a place like Ho Chi Minh City?
Imagine someone who's ready to take on the world every morning. Someone who loves the fast pace, the endless possibilities, the constant buzz. Ho Chi Minh City is a magnet for entrepreneurs, artists, anyone who loves a good challenge and a dynamic environment.
Oh, it's not for everyone then. You need a certain, I don't know, a certain drive to make it in Saigon.
You could say that, yeah. It's a city that rewards ambition and being okay with a little bit of chaos. But don't worry, even in all that chaos, there's this amazing expat community. It's a real melting pot of cultures, and you'll find a sense of, I don't know, togetherness that comes from navigating a new country with other people who get it.
So it's not all just business and skyscrapers. There's a human side to Ho Chi Minh City, too.
100%. It's a city with a big heart. A place where old traditions meet modern life. You can wander through busy markets, find these hidden cafes tucked away in alleyways, even find little pockets of peace and quiet in the middle of all the action.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal. But let's be real. What are some practical things to think about if you're seriously considering Ho Chi Minh City as your new home?
Okay, well, first of all, be prepared for a higher cost of living compared to other Vietnamese cities. Rent, especially in the central areas, can be pretty expensive. Everything's a bit pricier because it's the economic hub.
So you need a little bit more financial wiggle room to really enjoy Saigon then. What about getting around? Is transportation easy?
Transportation in Ho Chi Minh City can be an experience in itself. Motorbikes are everywhere. And while riding a motorbike can be a super fun way to see the city, it can also be a little crazy. But taxis and ride-sharing services are everywhere, and they're building a metro system, which makes things a bit more comfortable and predictable.
So lots of options. Now, let's say you're moving to Ho Chi Minh City with your family. What are the schools like?
Ho Chi Minh City has a ton of international schools, and they offer really good education for expat kids. But, like we said before, those schools can be expensive, so you got to factor that into your budget.
Okay, so higher cost of living, busy transportation, international schools. It sounds like Ho Chi Minh City is best for people who are financially comfortable, adaptable, and okay with a fast pace of life.
I think that's a pretty good summary. All right, now let's head north to the capital, Hanoi.
Hanoi, the city of lakes and legends. We talk about its history and tranquility, but what kind of person would really love living in Hanoi?
Imagine someone who's drawn to history, who enjoys a slower pace of life, and who appreciates the beauty of tradition. Hanoi is a city that tells you to slow down, enjoy a cup of tea in a charming cafe, wander through those ancient temples, and just soak in the unique atmosphere.
It sounds like a peaceful retreat, a place to escape the craziness of the modern world.
Yeah, exactly. Hanoi is a city that rewards curiosity, a love of learning, and an appreciation for the good things in life. Art, culture, Good conversation.
I'm feeling more relaxed just thinking about it. But let's get down to business. What are some practical things to think about if you're considering a move to Hanoi?
Okay, well, Hanoi's weather is different from Ho Chi Minh City. It has four distinct seasons, including a winter that can get pretty cold and damp, so pack accordingly.
Got it. Trade those swimsuits for some cozy sweaters. What about the cost of living in Hanoi?
Hanoi is generally more affordable than Ho Chi Minh City, especially rent. You can find some really lovely apartments in the Old Quarter or check out the newer developments in the suburbs.
So a bit easier on the wallet than Saigon. What about transportation? Is it as wild as Ho Chi Minh City?
Hanoi has its share of motorbikes too, but the traffic's usually not as crazy as in Ho Chi Minh City. Plus, Hanoi has a decent public transportation system with buses and a metro that's getting bigger all the time, so getting around is pretty easy.
Sounds manageable.
Yeah.
What about the social scene in Hanoi?
Yeah.
Is it as lively and diverse as Ho Chi Minh City?
Hanoi's social scene is definitely more laid back and intimate than Ho Chi Minh City's, but it's got its own charm. There's a great expat community, tons of cozy cafes, perfect for meeting up with friends or working remotely, and more bars and restaurants popping up all the time.
So it's more about quality time with friends than big parties.
Yeah, exactly. Hanoi is a city where you build relationships over cups of tea and shared stories. It's all about those simple, genuine moments.
I love that. All right, so we've covered the two biggest cities, Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. But what about the coast? All those gorgeous beaches and that relaxed lifestyle are calling my name.
Oh, yeah, the coast. Vietnam has so many beautiful coastal cities to choose from.
Let's start with Da Nang, that rising star that everyone's talking about. We talked about its mix of city life and beach vibes before, but what kind of person would truly feel at home in Da Nang?
I think Da Nang is perfect for someone who loves adventure and wants a good work-life balance. Someone who wants the energy of a city that's growing and changing, but also wants to be able to, feel the sand between their toes and the ocean breeze in their hair. It's a place where you can start your workday in a cool co-working space, surf in the afternoon, and then have dinner on the beach under the stars.
Okay, that sounds like a dream. No wonder Da Nang is so popular with digital nomads. What else makes Da Nang special?
Da Nang is just beautiful. Amazing beaches, rolling hills, the Hai Van Pass, which has insane views of the coastline. And even though it's growing fast, Da Nang hasn't lost its charm or its cultural heritage. You can find old temples right next to modern buildings, bustling markets with fresh local produce, and people are super welcoming. It's a place that embraces both tradition and progress.
It's like getting the best of both worlds. But let's talk about the practical stuff. What's the cost of living like in Da Nang?
Da Nang is more affordable than both Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, which makes it a really good option for people who are on a budget or who just want to live a more, financially sustainable life.
So your money goes further in Da Nang. I like that. What about the expat community? Is it as big and established as in the bigger cities?
The expat community in Da Nang is growing super fast. There's a mix of digital nomads, entrepreneurs, retirees, families, all drawn to Da Nang's lifestyle and affordability. Plus, there are lots of social groups, meetups, and online forums where expats connect and help each other out.
That's awesome. It's so helpful to have a community, especially when you're living in a new country.
Absolutely. And speaking of getting around, what's transportation like in Da Nang? Is it easy to get from place to place?
Well, Da Nang is a fairly small city, so it's easy to get around. Motorbikes are popular, but there's also a good bus system and taxis. And if you want to explore the areas outside the city, you can rent a car or a motorbike. All right, so we've got affordable living, a growing expat community, easy transportation, and stunning natural beauty. Da Nang's checking all the boxes, but let's not forget about the other coastal cities.
Oh, right. We can't leave out Nha Trang and Phu Quoc. They both have their own unique coastal charm.
Okay, let's start with Nha Trang. We talked about its resort town vibe before. What else can you tell us about life in Nha Trang?
Nha Trang is all about the beach. Life there revolves around swimming, sunbathing, water sports, eating fresh seafood right on the sand.
So it's the place to go if you want a relaxed beach life.
Exactly. It's a city that encourages you to unwind, recharge, and just soak up those tropical vibes. It might not have the same cultural attractions as Hanoi or the job opportunities of Ho Chi Minh City, but Nha Trang offers something different: natural beauty, a slower pace, and a carefree, joyful energy.
I can already feel my stress melting away. But let's get practical for a second. What are the practicalities of living in Nha Trang?
Okay, so the cost of living in Nha Trang is generally lower than in Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, but it's a bit higher than in Da Nang. That's because it's a popular tourist spot, which can drive up prices.
So you're paying a bit extra for those amazing ocean views and easy access to the beach.
Got it.
What about the expat community in Nha Trang?
Nha Trang's had an expat community for a long time, mainly retirees and people who work in tourism. There are lots of social groups and meetups, so it's easy to meet other expats and make friends.
Sounds like a welcoming place for foreigners. Now let's hop over to that island paradise, Phu Quoc. We talked about its beaches and its peaceful atmosphere. What else can you tell us about this idyllic island?
Phu Quoc is like taking a deep breath of fresh air. Time seems to slow down there, and you can really forget about your worries. It's an island that invites you to connect with nature. Explore hidden beaches, hike through forests, find that inner peace that can be hard to find in the city.
It sounds amazing. But what about the logistics of living on an island? Is it easy to get around, find what you need?
Phu Quoc has developed a lot in recent years. It's still got its natural beauty, but now it also has good infrastructure and all the amenities you need. There are supermarkets, shops, restaurants, hospitals, clinics, everything. And getting around is easy. Motorbikes, taxis, buses, you've got options.
So it's paradise, but with all the conveniences. I like it. What about the cost of living on Phu Quoc? Is it as affordable as the mainland cities?
It can be a little bit more expensive than some mainland cities, especially for things that are imported, but local produce and seafood are easy to find and pretty cheap, and there are all kinds of accommodation options, from budget-friendly guest houses to fancy resorts.
So something for every budget then. What about the expat community on Phu Quoc?
It's relatively small, but growing. It's a mix of entrepreneurs, digital nomads, and retirees, people who love the island's laid-back lifestyle and natural beauty.
Sounds like a close-knit community.
It is. It's a place where it's easy to connect with people and build lasting friendships. So that was our whirlwind tour of Vietnam cities. So much variety, so much to offer.
It really was an incredible journey. We explored bustling cities, historical places, peaceful highlands. Vietnam really does have something for everyone. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm feeling a bit sad to say goodbye. It's like saying goodbye to a good friend after an amazing adventure.
I know what you mean. It feels like we've only just started to uncover Vietnam's magic. There's still so much more to explore.
Exactly. But that's the exciting part, right? Knowing that the adventure never really ends,
Yeah.
that there are always new places to discover and new stories to be told.
Well said. So to all our listeners who are dreaming of a new life in Vietnam, don't be afraid to take the leap.
Embrace the unknown, dive into the culture, and let yourself be surprised by all the incredible things Vietnam has to offer.
And who knows, maybe we'll bump into each other someday on the streets of Hanoi or on a beach in Phu Quoc. Until then, safe travels.
Thanks for joining us on a deep dive. We'll see you next time for another adventure.